What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Draft Hub. Today I have a very, very special guest with me, my good friend Dom, and we are going to be doing a 2-round mock draft for you guys. And Dom, I mean, I don't really say too much on the channel, but if you guys follow me on X, you know that Dom is one of my favorite guys to not only create with, but he's one of the best and the brightest in the game, and I'm really excited to have him on. This is the first time on this new channel that I think that we've done a video together, so it's super exciting. Dom, how you doing, man? Thanks for coming.
I appreciate it, Pete. I mean, this has been like 19 months in the making. I mean, timing just hasn't been good for either of us, and such is life. That's how it rolls, though. But I am super stoked to get this done and get into this. So,
and you know what's funny? Before we get into this, Dom is someone that every time I've done a video with him, he is just gaining more and more stature in the draft realm. So I'm really proud of him. I'm really excited to see where he's going. Year in and year out, he's always got something else going on, and he just keeps getting better. So it's an honor to watch you grow in this community as well, dude.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that, dude. I appreciate that a lot.
Yeah, let's rock. Of course. Yeah, let's rock. So I'm going to do odds. Of course, I'm going to give Dom, who is a big-time Jet fan like myself, we're going to give him even so he can get both of the Jets picks. So number 1 overall for the Las Vegas Raiders, I don't really think this pick needs really any explanation whatsoever at this point. We are going to take Fernando Mendoza. Like me and Dom were just talking about off camera, this is one of the most easiest predictive number 1 overall picks in I don't even know how long.
Yeah, it's a shame. I wish it wasn't the case. I wish there was somebody else worth taking up there for the Raiders, but alas, here we are. And I'm up with 2. And again, we talked about that this is going to be more predictive than more what would we do. And frankly, I don't know if that really changes for me. Right now, I think it's, probably leaning very heavily towards this pick here. And it's probably the pick I would make if it was what I would do as well. And I'm going to take Arvell Reese. And I don't care if you play him as a defensive end. I don't care if you play him as an outside linebacker. I'm play him at Sam in some positions. To me, he's just a certified, chess piece shit kicker who's 20 years old, has a body that can take on more mass. I think we haven't seen the best of Arvell Reese yet, and I think the Jets are going to fall in love with that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I do think, personally, if it was me at 2, this is why we didn't do a if it was me draft, because I'd probably take Sonny Styles at number 2. But I think Arvell Reese, I really don't think, us as Jet fans, we could sit here and say that truly any way they go probably can't be the wrong way with the players that are available, but I'm sure they'll figure out a way to go the wrong way. But Arvell Reese Arvell Reese is just a dog in his own right. And I do think that's definitely the way that the Jets are leaning. At 3, you have the Arizona Cardinals, and I'm not going to make the sexy pick here, especially with what the Cardinals have done in free agency. Adding Tyler Algier, of course, and then bringing back what we thought James Conner was going to be a cut candidate, bringing him back on a reworked 1-year deal. As much as I think Jeremiah Love makes a lot of sense here, I think you have to get the offensive line right. Right tackle right now, even after signing Elijah Wilkerson, is a black hole right now. I think you have to go out, and I think you have to get the best right tackle in the draft at number 3. It might not be a sexy pick, but I'm going to take Francis Mauigoa here.
Yeah, I can see that happening as well. I wish that the Fano discussion or the Fano measurements weren't going to be such a heavy discussion, because, I would like to have the opportunity of Fano and Mauigoa be more in the discussion. I think they're very, very comparable in talent and upside. So, but a lot of people now have just crossed Fano off the tackle board completely. So I'm up with Tennessee. This is starting to become a little bit more chalky. I thought for a while it was going to be, it's going to be one of these edge rushers, especially with Robert Saleh in there. They traded for Jermaine Johnson. They still have the kid from UCLA that they drafted in the 2nd round last year, who's a menace off the edge as well, still learning and cutting his teeth and learning how to do it full time.
Demi Oladejo, one of my favorite names to say.
Yeah, I left it as the kid from UCLA, so I didn't hack that up. I think this is getting kind of more chalky. I think it's Jeremiah Love. I think this is Jeremiah Love, and they do need a receiver. I think you can still, now that they brought back Calvin Ridley. I think you can hold off. You don't have to take one in the top 5 here. Again, they're going to pick, and they have another pick in the top 40 coming up. If they wanted to secure an edge rusher, more of a speed guy, to complement Jermaine Johnson, I think you can probably do it in like the R. Mason Thomas, that kind of realm.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if you're going to get a talent such as Jeremiah Love in round 2, 3, 4, or whatever. So that's the pick. You're up with the Giants.
Yeah, with the Giants here now, you want to talk about muddy with all the players that are available right now. It's you want to talk about a team that really can't miss right now at number 5. The Giants have Styles, Bain, Bailey, Downs, Delaney. Even is a player that I think makes a lot of sense for them at number 5. Even after signing someone like a Greg Newsome to a 1-year deal, even after signing Tremaine Edmonds to a 3-year deal, I still think the linebacker and Micah McFadden on a re-sign. I do think Sonny Styles makes a lot of sense here. I also am in the. This is for me at least, this is a draft of you take the best player on the board and you just kind of forget about it, regardless of the position right now. And I think Sonny Styles is certainly an outlier in terms of being an off-ball linebacker where he can have such an unbelievably astute impact on the game, regardless of where he is playing. If he's playing in the middle of the field, you could put him, you could back him up, play somewhat in kind of like that weird hybrid safety role too. He could play all over the field. He's incredibly athletic. He's certainly one of the most unique linebacking prospects I think we've ever seen in recent memory. And I'm going to take Sonny Styles here. I think you just take the best player that's on the board and you kind of forget about it. And for me, I think Sonny Styles is kind of, I've been on Styles for a good 2 or 3 years now since his freshman year when he was playing safety for the Buckeyes. And I think he's one of those guys that is really going to be a Pro Bowl, all-pro type of guy from day one.
Yeah, I don't think the Tremaine Edwards signing would kind of dissuade them from still taking a possible, possibly. Yeah, I think it's a fair argument, possibly the best player overall in this draft class. I mean, I think you say that about a lot of guys, but the fit's there. I think they'll have a discussion about a weapon, but it seems like they've been plugging some holes on that during free agency as well, the Giants, that is. So it gives them more options. I think it gives them the opportunity to take the best player available. This is a no-brainer for me, probably the biggest riser in this draft cycle since the All-Star games is coming here. Cleveland's completely revamped their offensive line. They did not really address the left tackle, and that's where Monroe Freeland's going to come in.
Yeah.
The size, the length, the agility for a guy that big is really, really good. The top end film, not really there. Had some really, really rough starts early in the season this year, but kind of settled in. So I just think, he oozes what you want a prototypical left tackle to look like and what you build in a lab. So Monroe Freeland's going to be the pick.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more on that one. And even up until the point of last week, people are like, it's too high for Monroe Freeland. I'm like, really? Have you seen the measurements? Have you seen the athleticism? I'm like, I don't really think that's high at all. But he is a beast here. Honestly, I would love this pick at number 7 for the Commanders to be as straightforward. But again, you still have so much talent on the board. I would love to take a receiver right here because, the Commanders are a team that I really do feel like need another receiver. Scary Terry is closing in on that, forbidden 30-plus plateau. Really, outside of that, there hasn't been too much movement in the wide receiver game for the Commanders here. But I think I'm going to stick to the defensive side. Dan Quinn the Commanders really have done a really nice job of kind of revamping a lot of key areas for them, spending money. After the Odafe Owe contract, I was a little worried about what they were going to do in free agency if they were going to start dishing out money like that, 4 years, $100 million. But they made some really, really nice deals after that. But I'm going to take David Bailey here. I just think it makes a lot of sense for what the Commanders are looking for long term. I know that they did sign Owe to a 4-year contract and they added a couple pieces on the defensive line again, but that's not going to stop me from taking a guy that could be as good as Bailey at the next level. And with Dan Quinn, defensive minded, I just think it makes a lot of sense. Tough with Mansour Delaney, Caleb Downs, and Ruben Bain Jr. on the board, even Carnell Tate. But I think I'm going to stick to my guns here and take Bailey at 7.
Yeah, I think that's his absolute floor. And I think it's going to be a fair discussion with both the Jets and the Titans and David Bailey, just because, his what he does on the field in those spurts is just so high level. I think you have to have, when you have a pass rusher of his aptitude available, you have to have that discussion. But I think that this is his floor.
Yeah.
He's a good player, and I think he's gonna. It's a great fit for that team. The Saints are interesting. So, I think the Saints would love for Sonny Styles to fall. I really, really do. And I think you can make some arguments. First off, I'm going to say this. I think you can make some arguments that the Saints had themselves a pretty good offseason.
Absolutely.
Right? I really like the David Edwards signing. I really like, the fact that they brought in Travis Etienne. I don't know what it says for Kamara. They signed Noah Fant for some depth at the tight end position. Caden Ellis is a little bit of a question mark, the 32-year-old middle linebacker that you're giving 3 years to. So that's where I think Sonny Styles would probably fit. To me, I think they're probably going to try to keep supporting the young quarterback in Tyler Shough. Younger, I should say, quarterback in Tyler Shough. I think it's going to be a big discussion with Ruben Bain here on the table. I think you're going to have a big discussion with Mansour Delane on the table here as well. But I'm going to take Carnell Tate and just give another outside boundary receiver. You have Chris Olave that can play the Z. You have Devon Bailey, who came over from Denver and who supposedly they are absolutely all in on. And you can play him in the slot. You also have Jalen Polk you can play, or that they signed as a free agent last year after he was cut by New England. That can kind of play all three things. So I think Carnell Tate raises he's a instant starter on this team. And now you have four guys that I think you can you're cooking with heat a little bit. You know what I mean? And you give some more support and some help to Tyler Shough.
And plus, Mickey Loomis is infatuated with Ohio State Buckeyes, so it just makes sense.
There you go.
Great. But at 9, you have the Kansas City Chiefs. And, I've actually played around with the idea of if Malignol was on the board. I usually play around with the idea of him going at 9 because I do think there's a pretty big hole at right tackle for the Chiefs. And especially with, the way that Patrick Mahomes' season went last year and the running game was a disaster and he was injured. I feel like you have to protect quite possibly the number one asset in the entire NFL is Patrick Mahomes. So I think you have to double down, triple down on protecting him. But he's not here right now. I think it has to be on the defensive side. And I really think you have to add the pass rush was kind of obviously, for lack of a better term, wasn't great. They lost Charles Omenihu as well as a player that they were quite high on. I think that I don't know about you. I've never really been a big fan of George Karlaftis. I thought that contract was pretty, I don't want to say not deserved, but I don't really think his play on the field kind of reflected what that contract was given to him for. So I think I'm going to have to take Ruben Bain Jr. here. I would love to, if the Chiefs picked a little bit further back, I would be probably thinking about taking a defensive tackle. I'd probably be thinking about taking, what's his name at this point here, Caleb Banks at this point. But I think I'm going to have to continue to add to the defensive line. I know that it's crazy with Caleb Downs on the board here, but I just think the Chiefs are a team that could take a T-Rex type of player like Ruben Bain Jr. and just turn him into everything that we think he's going to be at the NFL level. So I'm going to take Ruben Bain Jr. here for a little bit more pass rush reassurance.
Yeah, like I said, I think Cincinnati would have ran to the table if Ruben Bain was still on the
100%.
board. So it makes it a little bit more challenging for me here being in Cincinnati shoes. Now, they brought in Boye Mafe. They signed Jonathan Allen. They signed Brian Cook, I believe. And I don't know how you feel, Pete. I think Jordan Battle's a starter in this league. He may not, do I think that, he's a guy that you don't have to worry about or you can't upgrade? No. I think you can upgrade on him, but I don't know if you have to spend a top 10 pick right here, right now on a safety, especially in a class this deep. Caleb Downs is an interesting option for me. But again, I'm not sure if, they want to really are they ready to move on from Jordan Battle? I think that they could use some help on the defensive backfield, especially at the boundary corner or the slot corner. So that's interesting. I don't know about you. I'm intrigued about Kenyon Sadiq here. I just don't know if it's too high. I would probably say it's a little too high. So I'm going to go ahead. Man, this is tough.
It's a tough one.
Yeah. I'm going to take Mansour Delane off the board.
I like
I'm
that.
going to take Mansour. I'm going to take Mansour Delane off the board, and I think it gives you the opportunity to take Dax Hill and put him back where in that natural nickel spot if you want him to. If you want him to be, you have some other guys on the outside that are developing. Josh Newton, who they drafted last year from 2 years ago from Kansas State, still on the board, still on the roster. You have DJ Turner, who can do a little bit of everything, some slot, some outside too. Mm-hmm. So I think Mansour gives you a true boundary cornerback, fits in the defensive scheme. To me, gives you that flexibility that it offers you by allowing you to move some of the other chess pieces around. And I'll address safety later on. To me, is better than Caleb Downs right there.
Yeah, I think you're right. And honestly, either way, even if they were to go Mansour Delaney or go with Caleb Downs, I don't think either. I think it's a great pick either way. But that was that pick makes a lot of sense to me, especially with the. I don't want to say that they lack depth, but I feel like they lack a true maybe number one option. And I feel like Delaney can go into Cincinnati and really be that guy that can be their number one shutdown corner, take one side of the field away. At 11 for the Dolphins, a lot of different ways you can go. This is kind of a little bit of an interesting team here because, they stripped their team essentially down to the bare bones. So it just makes sense to take the best player on the board. And I think they traded Minkah Fitzpatrick to the Jets, of course. So obviously they have their eyes on someone here. And honestly, if you would have taken Caleb Downs at number 10, I probably would have toyed around with the idea of Dylan Thieneman here at 11 too. But Caleb Downs is still on the board. Even though they need a receiver desperately too, they still have Jalen Waddle, of course. So I'm not too pressed to take, a Mekhi Lemon or a Jordan Tyson here. So I'm going to take Caleb Downs. I just think it makes a lot of sense. A defensive-minded coach, you got to bring in your guys. And Caleb Downs, in his medical history, quote unquote, or whatever you want to call it, aside, I still think he has the opportunity to be the best defensive player in this draft class. So Downs to the Dolphins here makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, I think it would be a home run if Caleb made it all the way down to 11, and Dolphins fans would be be ecstatic as they should be. It leaves me up here with Dallas. So I think Mansour Delane is really the target. I wouldn't be surprised come draft day if they have an inkling that he might go a couple spots like he did in this draft. They might move up. Mm-hmm. I think that outside corner is probably their biggest need. I don't know if they're ready to take another guy coming off an ACL injury in Jamal McCoy again, because they did that last year in Savon Rebel and it didn't work out very well. They went and signed Kobe Durant. He's kind of a placeholder. I still think they need some depth there. I think they need some depth up on the defensive line too. So I think there's a lot of different ways you can go. I wish I was dead set on one avenue. Like I think an offensive weapon would make sense here. I think Dylan Thieneman would make sense here. Oh man. I'm going to do this. I know I talked about all these needs, but I think I have to do this. Yeah, I got to go this way. So this is going to be a little early, I think. I don't necessarily think it's a little early. I think it's in play, and he's going to be in play, and he's probably a guy that the NFL is going to like a lot more than we like. I'm going to take Keldrick Falk off the board.
Okay.
Yeah, so with Donovan Ezeraku coming back from hip surgery, labrum surgery, he's not going to be ready for the beginning of camp. Don't know how much that lingers into the regular season. They just going to need somebody on that edge. And like I said, I think that the traits that Keldrick Falk offers, the length, the height, the speed, the size, the elite run stuffing ability right from the jump, I think is going to play in the NFL. He's still got a lot to learn on how to rush the passer, but at 20 years old, 280 pounds with his length, the GMs are going to drool over the trait. So to me, he's not going to get much further than this area. So considering what was on the board, how everything fell, this is the way I'm going to go.
Yeah, I did this a couple weeks ago, and Cowboys fans ripped me apart for it. But I agree with your sentiment, saying that, listen, you might not like it, but you are not in a NFL front office. You know exactly what they go for, especially with these edge rushers. You got a guy that looks like Keldrick Falk at 6'6", 280 pounds, where you're like, how the hell is that guy 280 pounds and that fast? You know that they're going to be drooling over him. I agree with the pick. I do think it makes a lot of sense as well. And like you said, everything with the sentiment with the corner going early, Savon Revel, all that really didn't work out. But at 13 with the Rams, a couple different ways you can go. A lot of people think that the Rams will be running the card up to the podium for Kenyon Sadiq. I don't know if I'm the only guy that thinks that, yeah, he's an athletic freak, but I don't really think that's a need for the Rams right now, especially after drafting a fellow Oregon tight end last year in Terrence Ferguson, who did definitely show a lot of flashes, especially later on in the season, as someone that they might look to develop as their every down tight end sooner rather than later. I think I'm going to take Makai Lemon here. I just think Lemon is a great contingency plan for this year, and then he's in the future plans for next year because Devontae Adams only has 1 year left. And I think that Lemon's skill set is going to line up to the perfect contrast to what Puka Nacua does for Sean McVay. I really do think a three-headed monster at the wide receiver position of Devontae Adams, Makai Lemon, and Puka Nacua is kind of dastardly for any defense to try and game plan against. And Lemon is someone that I think could be a huge benefactor for that. And I think that McVay would have an absolutely fantastic time trying to, scheme him open and get him touches. So I think that it just makes that, especially with the way that the Rams have been so heavy on the defensive side in free agency and through trades, makes me think that they're also looking to take an offensive weapon at number 13.
Interesting. I love it. I would hate it as a Jets fan because that's really who I love to target. Even if it's a matter of in the real life they go up and trade for him, he's a guy I think that would complement very well.
Sure.
I'm up here with the Ravens. Oh man, what did the Ravens do in the offseason? I know they signed John Simpson. I know that they signed Trey Hendrickson. I know that they almost signed from the Raiders. We all know what happened there, and they pivoted to Trey Hendrickson, which is all fine and dandy. I'm going to take a pick here. No, I'm not going to do that. I was thinking. Yeah, I am.
John, this is your opportunity to let loose, man. Any of your draft, your draft.
So yeah, no, and I'm gonna talk it through with you. It's definitely gonna be on the defensive side. I think they need a little bit more juice off the edge, right? Trey Hendrickson gives them one true pass rusher, right? I believe they still have Adisa Isaac on the team, but he hasn't really panned out. Mike Green, I loved Mike Green.
Yeah.
I think you can probably say that if you can bring in somebody competition with Mike Green, at least it gives you two kind of speedier, bendier forces off the edge. You're going to need four edges in here at some point. This is where I'm going to have Cassius Howell come off. Now, it might be a little rich for some. I know some don't even have him as a first-round grade. I don't have him as a first-round grade. I think that his motor, his get-off, is something just completely different than anyone we've seen come in recent times. Now, he's an outlier. I know the short arms or stuff and all that stuff. You're not going to ask him to line up and set an edge every so often. Mm-hmm. You're going to ask him to, when people are paying attention to Trey Hendrickson on one side, to get in on the other side and cause havoc. I love what they have in the middle. I actually like Travis Jones. I like Broderick Washington as well. I like that noise that they have here. If Caleb Banks' foot isn't broken, he might be a guy I'd consider here at this point. You hope that Matabuke comes back as well. Give me a guy that can just get to the quarterback, have one job, even if it's a DPR to start, I think he could be very effective in this defense. I'm going to take Cassius Howell here.
If Madueke comes back and you got Trey Hendrickson on the other side and Cassius Howell, you're getting back to Ravens football that's at
Correct.
its very best.
Correct.
I mean,
I know the arms are short on Howell, and I know people aren't going to like that outlying factor.
Mm-hmm.
But the get off is real.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And the ability to finish and close and cut the corner, no matter if he's got 31-inch arms or not, it's legit. So
at 15, you got Tampa Bay, and I mean, this is a pick that sounds boring at this point, but you know what? I actually think I'm going to go in an opposite direction here. I usually go Akeem Mesidor here. I just think that with his skill set and his, I don't think that, not just because he's 25 years old, because of the experience factor, he's not someone that really needs to be quite as developed as some other guys in the NFL. But I'm going to go a different avenue here because I always go the same way. I'm going to take CJ Allen here at number 15, I think. I know that they did sign Alex Anzalone as well, but that's not going to stop me from taking a linebacker at this point. I think that CJ Allen is a potential, probably the perfect predecessor to, or not predecessor, the heir to the Levante David throne at this point. I think that he's super athletic. He's fantastic against the run. The athleticism is there in coverage. I know he didn't really show it this past year at Georgia, but there were instances where you saw the ability to cover. I don't know what exactly happened with him last year. Looked lost on a lot of plays in coverage, but he has the ability. I think as long as he could kind of be developed, and when you have someone as good as Levante David teaching you, at least for a season, I think CJ Allen's going to turn into an absolute dog, no pun intended. So I think this isn't too early to take him, especially with a team that definitely has a massive need at linebacker.
Yeah, they absolutely could use a guy like that true in the tackle box thumper. I thought about him for Dallas. I thought about Akeem Mesidor for Dallas as well. Like those guys could also very, very easily slot in at 12, where I went with Falk. But I think Allen's on the. You got to talk about Allen as a 1B when it comes to terms of Mike linebacker, just what he do on the field. So I love him. The Jets are on the board again. This is what we're predictive here. I would, if it was me, I'd probably kick around. If I was making the decision, I'd probably kick around the name of Kenyon Sadiq, because I think that complementary piece to Mason Taylor would be phenomenal. Mm-hmm. But I don't think the Jets are going to do that. I think you could talk about Vega Ioane, and I love him. He's my 8th player overall on the board. He's my number 1 lineman. He's my 8th player overall on the board. The signing of Dylan Parham, kind of for starters, 1-year starter money, shouldn't preclude you from taking another offensive lineman, but I think it doesn't. You don't have to take it here in the first round. So I'm going to go to the next best and biggest fit. And they've talked about adding more to this room. Give me Jordan Tyson from Arizona State, and you got 2 guys in Jordan Tyson and Garrett Wilson who can flip flop between the Z and the slot. I think that the separation that he can create. I think his route running prowess, it really mimics or resembles what Garrett Wilson does. I think they're very similar in that sense, in how they create separation and how they, what they are with the ball in their hands, so on and so forth. The injuries are going to have to, really show well. If this lingering hamstring injury, which is the opposite leg from his major knee injury a couple years ago, which is a good thing. If that kind of lingers, you might see a little bit of a, precipitous fall for Jordan Tyson. But, talent aside, there's an argument he's the best receiver in this class, hands down. And the Jets need talent on the offensive side of the ball. Jordan Tyson, welcome to Florham Park. Meet Geno Smith.
Yeah, no, I love it. And if he turns out to be just as good as Garrett Wilson, sign me up for 2 Garrett Wilsons on the same on the same team. 100%. Sign me up for 11 Garrett Wilsons on a team. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter. But yeah, no, I love that. That's a pick that I usually kind of toy around with. I'm on the clock here at 17 for the Detroit Lions, and I'm running the card up the board for Spencer Fano. It's very clear to me that the Detroit Lions are looking to completely, for what was such a strength 2 seasons ago, to kind of got a little bit murky last year, and
Yeah.
then just really the complete dismantlement of the offensive line on one side completely. I think Fano is a player that, not only could step in and play, a lot of people don't want to move Penei Sewell over to the left side. Don't forget he was an All-American at left tackle at Oregon. You don't want to move an All-Pro from the right side, but if necessary, you move him to the left side. You put Fano over to the right, or you could even toy around with him playing on the interior. I think that getting someone like Fano, it's very clear that they want to completely revamp this offensive line. Getting someone with the talent of Spencer Fano, I just think allows you to do so much more with your offensive line. So I think the Lions have to get back to what's tried and true to them. They like to run the football. They like to have a powerhouse offensive line. And I think Fano's a massive step in that direction for them.
Yeah, I mean, for him to fall this far is it's kind of wild, because I think he's so talented. I think he's so talented, and he'll fit in perfectly in Detroit. Not much here for me. I know that they are strapped against the cap. I don't think it'll be here, but I think wide receiver is a sneaky need for them. Who knows what happens with Jordan Addison if he's suspended, if he's even in the league in another year, for Christ's sakes. With all the legal battles that he's facing. So you're going to need another wide receiver, but it's not here. Right now, I'm going to bring in Dylan Thieneman and have him, just line up and kind of solidify that, middle to post area of the defensive backfield. I think he showed later in the season last year how much he's improved his tackling from last year. His angles, his wraps. You knew that he was always talented. He showed a lot more ball skills actually in Purdue, but a lot more well-roundedness. After he transferred to Oregon, perfect fit for this defense. Perfect fit for just about any defense, to be honest with you, if we're speaking honest. So Dylan Thieneman, easy, run it to the table for the Vikings, and you're up for the Panthers.
Yeah, and this is quite an interesting pick, because I feel like there's a lot of different ways that the Panthers can go. So obviously everyone was pounding the table for edge. They paid Jalen Phillips an exorbitant amount of money, and everyone's pounding the table for an off-ball linebacker, and Devin Lloyd comes along. Some excellent pieces of business that the Carolina Panthers have done. So which makes me think that this could be an offensive pick. Now, I do think that Xavier Legette at this point is probably nothing short of a bust, unless he comes out with like a 1,500-yard season this year, which I don't think is happening. Mm-hmm. You do have, Tet McMillan, of course. Jalen Coker is a really, really solid player in its own right. I'm thinking this is a little bit too early for another receiver at this point. Offensive line could be a need as well, so I'm taking that into consideration. But I think Kenyon Sadiq gives this Carolina Panthers offense something that they truly lacked in the middle of the field. Don't get me wrong, I think Tommy Tremble, I think JT Sanders, I think Mitchell Evans, those guys are good, but I don't think that they're anything that Kenyon Sadiq can bring to the table for them. I think he just adds another layer, in line, big slot, whatever it may be. He just takes this offense another tick above what they are. And honestly, when they're right, they could pass the ball pretty well. So, adding Kenyon Sadiq to an offense that can move the football through the air, I just think makes them that much better. And it could be a luxury pick at this point. I get it, especially with the amount of tight ends that they have, but none of them, in my opinion, can do what Sadiq can do for this offense.
Yeah, I love that fit. I do. I've been robo drafting left tackles to them left and right, but now they signed Rasheed Walker even though it's a 1-year deal. I think that that's not the biggest priority. And if you can get a guy, like you said earlier, the best player, and make it work, I think in this case, I think you can make that argument that Sadiq is the best player, and it happens to be a position of need for him too. So I love the fit. I'm back up with Dallas. Akeem Mesidor is still on the board here, so Dallas fans in the chat, I'm sorry. I could have gone a different route, and then still gotten you the edge here, but yeah. So I don't know how you feel about this, but I'm gonna take Emmanuel McNeil-Warren here.
Ooh.
Okay, so they just signed Jalen Thompson to play strong safety on a 1-year deal, right? Mm-hmm. Malik Hooker's kind of owned the deep middle of the post. I like McNeil-Warren and Jalen Thompson to be that, if if you wanted to run big nickel against 11 personnel, you can have one of those guys slide into the slot. Probably more so Jalen Thompson, even though I think that McNeil Warren can do it very well. I love the way, and it's on his film it's evident the way he can sink his hip and run trail coverage against some of these receivers at that big. It's kind of crazy. But I also like the idea of having him, in the middle of your field, with DeMarion Overshown in some sub linebacker, playing some sub linebacker, some star packages. I just think that there's a lot you can do, even if he doesn't come in and he's the traditional starting strong safety right from the jump. I think he's a little bit more of a defensive chess piece. And, Jalen Thompson on a 1-year deal isn't going to really preclude me from taking another guy who I think can be a pillar of my defense for the next few years. So McNeil Warren's going to be my pick.
He's such a dog, man. And Toledo have really produced some really nice players the last few years. So, I mean, just in line again with the Quinyon Mitchells and, the Darius Alexanders of the world and stuff like that. But 21 kind of leaves me in a precarious position here with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't really know what to do. I know you probably saw me while you were talking. I was I was monitoring the tackle class to see what was going on there. I feel like tackle is a pretty big need. I think defensive line is a bigger need than a lot of Steelers fans will lead you to believe as well. Caleb Banks is on the board. I feel like it makes a lot of sense. I don't really need a wide receiver right now. I know that you saw. I still think that Casey Concepcion could totally be in play here at number 21, just because he offers a really nice contrast to the bigger receivers that have trouble separating, like a DK Metcalf and a Michael Pittman.
Yeah.
And that might still be the way that I go, to be honest with you, just because I'm not totally Ty Simpson here. I don't think is going to. I mean, we don't know what Pittsburgh is going to do at the quarterback position right now. I feel like we've seen no leads to whatever they're thinking. I think I might still go Casey Concepcion here. I just think that it might be a luxury, especially with some of the players that you get later on the board. But they have 5 picks inside the top 99. So I'm willing to maybe potentially overdraft for a wide receiver 3, but it opens up the offense that much more. And honestly, I think someone of Casey Concepcion's abilities, I think kind of automatically slides Michael Pittman to your wide receiver 2, or he might even take over right away as your wide receiver 1, depending on the type of passing offense that you're looking to run in Pittsburgh here. So I think I am going to take Casey Concepcion. Might be a little bit of a reach at 21, and I'm okay with that. But I think it perfectly brings the trio of wide receivers together for this Pittsburgh offense.
No, it absolutely does. I love that. I think that there's some other receivers that I like better, but I don't know if there's a fit that I think I like better. Like you said, in essence, you have 2 bigger X prototypes in Pittman and oh my God, why can't I think? DK Metcalf.
Yeah.
So you're already putting a square peg in a round hole on one of those. You better find somebody that can make plays from the slot and separate and do all that stuff. And there might not be a better one than Casey Concepcion in this draft. And I'm up with the Chargers. I think the Chargers are interesting. I think the Chargers. They signed Bodish, Tyler Bodish to play center. They signed Cole Strange and Trevor Penning.
It's so bad.
Guards. I don't think that either of those guys will keep me from taking Vega Ioane.
Yeah.
And at worst, what are you doing? You're building the depth that was so bad in your offensive line last year. No brainer almost for me. Like I said, I thought about kind of a true 2-gapping nose tackle. Jamari Caldwell was drafted to do that role last year. He's kind of okay. Probably an upgrade, but not one that you have to use in the first round. Vega Ioane has a chance to be an insta starter, 10-year starter, 3-time Pro Bowler. So and it doesn't matter if you play him at left or right because he's got good tackles to work with on the other side. On either side, and that side of the line becomes immediately dominant. Vega Ioane is the pick. You're up with the Eagles.
The Eagles are interesting because not only do you have to deal with the the unpredictability of Howie Roseman, you have to deal with the Philadelphia Eagles fans that you could have the most perfect draft for them, and they're still going to be mad at you. So it doesn't matter what you do. So I'm kind of torn here because I'm very, very inclined to just add to the edge because I mean they've lost so many players through free agency off the edge, and I think it's the most glaring need. But then, of course, when you have Howie Roseman, you never really think about the most glaring need. You think of who's next on the offensive line, who's next on the interior of the defensive line. And to be honest with you, I mean Akeem Mesidor doesn't really feel like a a Philadelphia Eagle type of player right now. Thinking about the offensive line long term, and it's tough. I'm looking at the tackles. I feel like Caden Proctor makes a lot of sense. Blake Miller is a player that not a lot of people are as high on than I am, but I think that when you got a 4-year starter that has almost 4,000 career snaps and as solid over his career as Blake Miller has been, with the overall improvement in his anchor ability from last year as well, I think I'm definitely willing to take a swing on someone like that at number 23. And Caden Proctor is in play here too. I know, and I've seen it. I know.
I think you're between. If you want any help, I think you're between the right two guys. Those are the exact way that I would think.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking maybe projection wise, I think maybe Proctor maybe offers, even it's crazy to say at 6'7", 360 pounds, he might offer you just a tick more versatility than Miller does. I think I'm going to have to take Blake Miller though, man. I mean, I know Philadelphia Eagles fans don't like it, but I truly feel like this is a very Howie Roseman pick, and he's just kind of as solid as they come. Is he going to be your, bells and whistles type of right tackle? I don't think so, but the athleticism is off the chart. The anchor ability improvement from last year to this year was really, really telling as well. And he comes with almost 4,000 snaps of experience. I think you have to kind of go Blake Miller here in this spot.
Yeah, I would have taken Blake Miller here with Cleveland and double up at the offensive tackle if you didn't. I think everything you said about him is right. He's a top 40 player for me. And I think the one thing that's not talked about enough is how better he was, how much work he put in the offseason. Not only in his, building, getting a little stronger and a little more sand in the pants to help the anchor, but his punch timing and his handwork was so much better this year than it was in years past. So I love Blake Miller. Cleveland's up. I'm going to go ahead and be kind of quick with this. We already talked. They could use another offensive lineman. I absolutely don't think the stuff that they've done in the offseason precludes them taking two, but I'm not here. I'm going to take Omar Cooper Jr. I think they need another weapon on that offense, no matter who the quarterback is, if it's Deshaun, if it's Shador. They just need to get more talented. Now, the question is what they think of Omar Cooper's projection at the next level. Some see him as a slot receiver, who you want to, in very Debo-esque fashion, get the ball in his hands and let him do the rest. I absolutely think he can play the boundary. I don't think he's got a skill set that tells me he can't play the boundary. And Jerry Jeudy, I know, can't. You know what I mean? So to me, this is a fair compliment. Omar Cooper to the Browns. I'll take it day in, day out.
I like it. I think he was. I think you and I were kind of early on being like, everyone's talking about Elijah Surratt, but what about this Omar Cooper Jr. guy? I agree with you on that 100%. I think he can kind of do everything that the Browns. I mean, you just got to add bodies at this point for the Browns. You need some kind of ability, upgrade ability there. 25. A couple different ways you can go here. Do I want the immediate pass rush upgrade in Akeem Mesidor? I think I do. I really do think that this Chicago Bears team is not far away from being a Super Bowl contender at this point. And I really do think that they are closer than some people give them credit for. I like Caden McDonald. I like Caleb Banks here a lot too, but you mentioned the broken foot too. And Banks is a player that I've been saying for a few weeks now that is going to get a GM fired, where he does, he's got all the goods. He does everything right. And then he just never pans out in the NFL. And you're like, well, you spent this high pick overall on him. Something must work. And something sometimes just never does. That's just me thinking that. I have no proof to back that up. But I think Mesidor is the immediate pass rush upgrade opposite for Montez Sweat that I think the Bears really, really need. I know they have Austin Booker, but again, I can't just roll with two guys off the edge. Austin Booker could be a rotational guy as well, and Isidore is probably going to be the player that I go with here for the immediate pass rush upgrade. 25 or not, I don't really think it matters, to be honest with you. The guy is a freak of nature, and the motor never stops for Akeem Mesidor.
Yeah, and again, if you didn't take him there, I would have taken him right here for Buffalo, because I think to me it's a perfect scheme fit for what they want. They can kind of work him in, but alas, here I am.
I keep doing that to you. I'm sorry,
every friggin' time, every time. So again, I'm going to talk this through. Okay, I really like TJ Parker. I'm just wondering if TJ Parker's skill set, especially with them transitioning to more of an odd man front, is going to be ideal for them. Now, obviously, in passing or sub packages, they can still run even fronts. But in those packages, you're going to have now Bradley Chubb and Greg Rousseau as your dominant guy, and Michael Heck, who's an underrated pass rusher. He's there as well. I think they need some edge depth. And a guy like Akeem Mesidor, I think, is a tier above anybody else here for me. So I'm going to probably back off of the edge rusher, but stay on the defensive side. This is where I'm going to have Caden McDonald come off the board. And as a Jets fan, I hate to say it, because I think he's a dominant run stuffer, two gapper, and true nose guard. True zero tech. I don't know if Deion Walker is that. I know on paper they want to play him there, but to me, Deion Walker is more of a vertical press and 3 tech that you have. Maybe he'll play some 5 with TJ Sanders in the or 4-eye in the odd man front, so on and so forth. You get both Deion Walker and a guy like Caden McDonald on the field at the same time in early downs. It's gonna be hard to run against.
That's a lot. That's a lot of men.
That's a lot. Yeah, that's a lot of meat right there.
There's a lot of beef right there, and I agree with you in the same sentiment as a Jets fan. I would absolutely hate to see that pick run up to the podium because, God, that just means that we ain't running against the Buffalo Bills. So,
Amen.
27 here for the 49ers. Now, I've gone so many different ways in previous drafts. I've even gone so far as to add edge rushing depth here. I think it's inevitable you have to add to the offensive line for this team. And San Francisco historically aren't really a team that spend too much draft capital in the first round on the offensive line. They tend to build their offensive line through either trades, free agency, or late day 2, early day 3 picks. I think there's where a change happens here this year. I think that you can't really run away from what they need on the offensive line at this point. And I like Caden Proctor a lot, and I think that this is probably the way that they should go. Just a natural heir to the Trent Williams throne at this point. Could even start at guard this year if you want to get him some starting reps as well before he inevitably takes over. But 6'7", 360 pounds with the athletic ability that he possesses, might project better at guard with the sometimes slow feet off the kick, but I'm going to take Caden Proctor here. I think it's an investment that the 49ers need to make on the offensive line.
Yeah, I think it's offensive line all day long for them as well. So I don't disagree. Man, Texans. The Texans are a real difficult team to talk about because they were pretty deep to begin with, right?
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have many holes to fill, so you still want to work along the offensive line. But to me, any guy that I would consider in this first round is already gone.
Yeah.
Right? Blake Miller, I think, would be a great landing spot here. Caden Proctor, I think, would make sense as well. When you look at the tackle board, I just don't. I don't know if Caleb Lomu's a first rounder. I definitely know that Jennings Dunker is not. Ian Acor, to me, that's way still more development. You can get a guard here, but is anybody you're going to take here to plug in at guard going to be better than something you can get in the next round or two? Probably not. You know what I mean? So I'm looking at like best overall, all around player, right? For and try to keep it at a position of need. It's tough. Like, I think Yeah, I think I know what I'm going to do.
Oh, what are you gonna do?
I think I know what I'm going to do. This is not going to be a very, very liked
And
or
I love it.
yeah, Houston pick. And again, this is not what I would do, because this is not a favorite player for me. But I think about scheme.
Mhm.
I think about what they want to do on defense. Right? They want to press with four. They want to sit back. They play a lot of zone.
The suspense is killing me.
I'm going to take Avion Terrell. All right.
Yes.
I'm going to take Avion Terrell off the board. I think he gives you inside-outside versatility. I think it gives you versatility to take Petrie and play him a little bit more at the strong safety spot. Kalen Bullock, nice player, can't tackle worth a shit. You know what I mean? So I think an upgrade is worthy there. I just don't know if there's another safety that I'm ready to plug in round one. I think a guy like Terrell can come in and man down your slot if you wanted to make Petrie a little bit more versatile. Or even do what a lot of those teams do. A lot of teams are doing now with the big nickel concepts, and have Bullock and Reed Blankenship and Petrie all on the field at the same time.
I love it, and you finally got me back for one, because I was going to take Avion Terrell at number 29. So you definitely got me back with one of those. But I have a contingency plan, of course. And broken foot or not, Caleb Banks at number 29 for a team that still I know I took Ruben Bain Jr. I know that there's probably other needs, but also a lot of people are quick to forget that, Brett Veach doesn't really draft a lot of early corners. They develop their day three guys in the secondary very, very well. So I don't think that one of these first round picks could even be a cornerback at one point. It might even be a receiver, an edge rusher, defensive lineman, whatever it may be. I'm going to stay away from the corners, even with someone like Jermod McCoy on the board. I want to tend to stay away from him until I can kind of get some kind of athletic testing from him. I tend to kind of stay away. That's just the way that I do my draft. So I'm going to take Caleb Banks here at number 29. I'm going to continue to add to the defensive line. And I think adding Banks next to, or even in rotation to someone like Chris Jones, Omar Norman Lott, I think you're kind of creating an unblockable trio there at that point.
I love that pick. It's a perfect, fit in line. And then again, they're not getting any younger on that interior line. So you just come in like that, man. I love that. I'm up here with Denver. You know what? Denver's another team that I don't think has a ton of needs. I think I know what I'm going to do.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, this is not going to be as hard as I thought. I don't know how many times you've seen this kind of fit for them, but I like it. I'm going to have Denzel Boston come off the board. Yeah. So even though he is re-signed, I don't think Courtland Sutton's getting any, he's getting a little bit longer in the tooth. But even with that, you have Pat Bryant, you have Troy Franklin. They're nice players. I think they're guys like we talked about earlier, where they're definitely replaceable, or at least not above bringing in talent to push or challenge them. I would say right off the rip that Denzel Boston is better than both of them. If there was a linebacker that I felt like really, really convicted with, I might take one here. And that might be Trotter when it's all said and done. I'm just not ready to put a first round label on him. Not when I think that there's a fit for an offensive minded quarterback, an offensive minded head coach, and to upgrade your talent, and at worst raise the floor of the roof of the room. In Denzel Boston, that's who's going to be the pick.
Yeah, I like that a lot, and I think people are just quick to be like, oh well, he's not a burner. He's not going to be a great separator at the NFL level. But if you really watch, he just does everything so well that you're looking for an NFL wide receiver. And I think he'd be a great addition to this Denver Broncos team. Like you said, they don't have a ton of needs. Why not go out there and get another weapon?
I thought about I thought about Peter Woods in this spot. I thought about a 3-tech to maybe replace John Franklin Myers. But again, I think that group is a little bit more talented. You'll be able to find something, later on round 2 or even day 3. Whereas to me, the wide receiver board kind of falls off a cliff at a point.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. 31, I think I'm going to continue to protect. Drake May here. I think it was pretty evident in the Super Bowl that this offensive line needed to be reworked. It looks like through signings that they're still going to keep Will Campbell at left tackle. You allow Jared Wilson to go back to play center. Elijah Vera Tucker, until his tricep falls off the bone, is going to probably play left guard. And the right side of the offensive line definitely needs an upgrade. Thinking about Maxi Natchor here, it might be a little early. I mean, between 30, really between like 30 and 40 is where I feel like he'll kind of fall off anyway with a few of these teams. Teams like the Cardinals, teams like the Raiders that probably need right tackle help are probably going to fall off anyway. And I think he makes a lot of sense here. 6'6", 330, very technically sound. One of the only players to kind of sort of shut down David Bailey this past year as well. A lot of people forget about that too, but he's a really, really solid overall player. And I think even if he does project well, on the right side, maybe he kind of, maybe reduces inside at the next level too. He certainly has the frame for it as well. Either way, he offers you a lot of right side offensive line versatility. And I think your number one prerogative in this draft is to continue to protect Drake May before weapons. And especially, like you said, the wide receiver board class kind of falls off a cliff after Denzel Boston. So I'm totally fine with waiting until the end of the second round to take a wide receiver if that's the case. So I'm going to take Ian Atchor here at number 31.
Yeah, and I'm up with Seattle. They are Super Bowl champions, which is crazy, right? But they took an interesting path to their offseason here. And looks like they did let a lot of guys walk, and it looks like they're gonna play the comp pick bingo game. So they got some holes. They got some holes to fill. I think I think a DeMarcus Lawrence replacement is probably something that's really, really in need. I think the defensive back room really needs some loving too. Like, you can use another safety. You can use some more boundary cornerbacks, right? I don't know if Josh Jobe is really starter material, so that's probably where I'm going to go. It's between TJ Parker and a corner, and I'm going to go ahead and take the corner from Tennessee, just not Jermon McCoy.
Ooh.
This to me is going to be Colton Hood.
I like that.
Who I have as I have him as the top 18 player in the class. I think he's actually 18 overall for me. He's not scheme specific. I love him in press. I think he's got really good click and close ability to play in zone as well. Physical, can get in there. It's a good tackler, good boundary guy. Good in the flank and fit in the run. He can run with guys. He can flip his hips. If it wasn't because of Jermon McCoy being so good last year, I think Colton Hood's name would be bantered around a little bit more than it really is. So Colton Hood deserves to be a first rounder. He's going to be my first rounder right here.
All right, so it's my pick here at number 33. And, it's funny, I realized when we were doing this before, I said I'm going to give you the first two picks, and then I didn't even realize that because I, of course, forgot that we were doing a two-rounder. I was like, oh, you have pick 44 too. So I'm going to get my little bit of input here at 33. And I really like what the Jets have been doing with the defensive line. Mm-hmm. I really like the additions that they made. I loved Vondre Sweat. Juwan Briggs last year was a really under-the-radar trade that really worked out for the Jets. And then, of course, getting David Onyemata on a one-year deal. So I love the revamping of the interior of the defensive line. Christian Miller is sitting here on the board at number 33. And again, Onyemata, great signing, but only a one-year deal, and he's 35 years old. I think I'm going to take Christian Miller here. I've been a huge fan of Christian Miller for the better part of this entire draft cycle. And I think he's one of the very best interior defensive linemen in this class. And I just love the combination of athleticism, length, the overall size, his strength, his prowess as a run defender. I think he'd be a really nice long-term addition for this Jets defensive line. And as we continue to reshape this defense in Aaron Glenn's vision, I think Christian Miller would be a big long-term addition for them.
Yeah, I love him in this role. I love him at this spot. He's a top 30 player for me on my board. Probably I need to rearrange now with Caleb Banks. I mean, his grade is his grade, but the injury is going to play. The injury is going to be real. This is the exact pick that I would have made.
Nice.
So I love that. I love that. I'm up with the Cardinals. I'm going to stay along the defensive line. I'm gonna take Lee Hunter here off the board. They just signed Roy Lopez. I think they could use some more. I don't know what the length of the contract is, full disclosure, but I think they could use some more two gapping, one tech prowess up there, and Lee Hunter gives you a little bit of everything, right? He's better pass rusher than his size would let him on to be, and he's very, 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 very active in the run game as well. So Lee Hunter's a good fit here.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect fit. I've been doing my mock draft series again. I've been doing 2.0s after free agency. And after this mock draft comes out on Monday, Tuesday is going to be the Cardinals. And you don't really realize it, but the depth on the defensive line is really bad for the Cardinals.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think Hunter would be just like an unbelievable addition. Then you got, Darius Robinson, Lee Hunter, Walter Nolan, if he could stay healthy. That's a nice young, starting three along the interior of the defensive line.
Yeah.
Tennessee here at number 35. So just to remind everyone, we're into round 2 here. Jeremiah Love was the first pick. I think I got to go edge here, even with trading for Jermaine Johnson. And I believe they signed Arden Key in free agency as well. That's not going to stop me here from taking TJ Parker. I think he'd be a really nice addition to this solid defense. You know how we know as Jet fans, he likes to run like a 9-man defensive line rotation. So you're going to need a lot of bodies along that defensive line, a lot of edge rushers. And I think Parker is someone that kind of gets a bad rap in this draft class amongst the edge rushers, because I think he's much better than people are giving him credit for. I know you're a big fan of TJ Parker as well. And I do think that it makes a lot of sense for they've been spending like madmen on the defensive side. Love getting Cordell Flott, love getting Alontae Taylor, really kind of gearing up to continue to add to the secondary as well. But here, we're going to take another pass rusher. Like you said, Femi Oladejo is going to come along. They have Jermaine Johnson. So getting another young, productive pass rusher, I think, is key here in the second round. Yeah,
I like that idea as well, especially since the David Baileys of the world were passed on for Jeremiah Love, so it absolutely makes sense. I'm up here with the Raiders. The Raiders have, as expected, been one of the more active teams in free agency. They had the most money, and they sure as heck spent it. So you're looking at where they can improve still. I think they can improve at the wide receiver position. I absolutely think they can improve. Like I said, Jalen Nailor's a nice signing. He's just that. He's a third receiver. Jack Besh and Trey Tucker as your 1 and your 2. Dante Thornton as your take the top off the defense kind of guy. I think you need to add a little bit more juice to that room. So there's a couple of different ways you can go about this, right? I would think that like a slot receiver, someone like a Jeremy Bernard might play well, but I don't know. Yeah, I'm going to go with Jeremy Bernard because I think Jeremy Bernard gives you a little bit of inside-outside flexibility. He's going to do most of his work from the slot. He can bounce outside, and he's skilled enough to take some of those Z reps if you need him to. A lunch pail kind of guy. I don't know if he's ever going to be a true wide receiver 1 on a team, but he's going to be a weapon. He's like your straight B student. Doesn't do anything at an elite level, but is very good at everything. So Jeremy Bernard's a big pick.
I like that a lot. Yeah, you're 100% right. It's so funny how this Raiders team is constructed, because you're basically constructing it around Brock Bowers almost kind of being your wide receiver 1.
Yeah.
And which is absolutely a fine.
Nothing wrong with that. Absolutely
nothing wrong with that at all. And then you get a lot of complementary receivers. But I'll be honest with you, if they could add someone like, Jeremy Bernard in the second round, get maybe a right tackle in round 3 or something like that, I think this offense is pretty good for the most part, or at least definitely trending in the right direction. I got the Giants at number 37. We took Sonny Styles at number 5, looking to potentially add to the offensive line here, the secondary. The Giants are a little bit of an interesting team here because I feel like they did a really nice job of adding some key pieces that they needed. I really liked the re-signing of Jermaine Illuminor. I thought he's been one of the more solid right tackles in the league since he joined the New York Giants. That was really a big key for me. If he was to sign somewhere else, I feel like they'd really try and knock down right tackle in the first or the second round. I'm going to take a look at the safeties that are on the board too. I think some secondary help will be nice. And this is where we might see some of these like B tier safeties kind of sort of fall. Really do like some of these guys now. I think I might stay on the offensive line. To be quite honest with you, I'm trying to envision what their starting offensive line would look like right now. And is John Runyon still under contract?
He's still under contract.
John Runyon's still under contract. So what's that right guard situation looking like? Or he played right? Either left.
He played left, and Greg Van Rotten was the right guard. So I don't know who is penciled in right now at right guard.
I'll tell you who's penciled in right now. Emmanuel Pregnon is going to be penciled in right now.
Yeah, that's the right pick. Yeah, they don't have anybody on the depth chart at right guard. Evan Neal is listed.
Oh, well, yeah, then hell no. But I just couldn't remember. I didn't want to make the pick and then think to myself, like, oh, yeah, they signed all these guys. I couldn't remember if they went into free agency kind of with no contingency plan. But, yeah, Pregnon's going to be the pick here. You want to continue to protect Jackson Dart. Also teach him how to slide. That'll probably protect him a little bit more, too. But you want to protect your number one asset. And Pregnon is just such an athletic freak, so athletically gifted, long, huge hands, huge arms, a little bit of an older prospect. But you draft good players. Dom, I know you and I are on the same wavelength. Unless someone's 30, I don't really care about drafting them in the first round or in the high in the second round. If
Absolutely.
they're a good player, you draft them. And
Absolutely.
Emmanuel Pregnon falls right into that category for me for the Giants.
I agree wholeheartedly. And again, probably would have been my pick here, but that's okay because I think there's a bunch of guys that you can build that depth with. On the offensive line at this stage of the game. I like Ariante Ursary. I think he's, pretty much settled in as their left tackle.
Mm-hmm.
I know that they just re-signed Ed Ingram to play right guard, but the left guard spot is still a little bit open. They signed Evan Brown, who was a backup level, vet minimum contract from Arizona. I'm going to have Chase Basantis come off the board here.
I like it.
And whether or not he's a starter, whether or not he just provides depth and it's a starter in waiting, which is okay for 22-year-old players. They don't all have to, you're not drafting starters 7 rounds. That sometimes you're drafting for the year after, so on and so forth. So he's going to be my selection here.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I think that's it's not the sexiest draft so far for the Houston Texans, but it's necessary. And like you said, it's kind of tough to draft for them because they really are going into free agency. They were pretty dang solid and pretty deep. And then they just got deeper and better through free agency. So really, you're kind of almost like in a best player available on the board situation almost every pick if you're the Texans. And Basantis is a great pick there. 39, we took a offense. We took Monroe Freeling at 6. At 24, we took Omar Cooper Jr. I'm very inclined to go back to the offensive line. I think it might be a little overkill at this point, potentially. So I might hold off on that. I kind of took a quick peek there. I would maybe like to add some sort of secondary piece at some point. I know Grant Delpit's not getting any younger. I know that they did re-sign, what the heck was his name, to a contract early on in free agency. I'm drawing a blank. Oh, Ronnie Hickman.
Yes.
Thank you. They re-signed on a little bit of a longer-term contract. I feel like with Denzel Ward getting a little bit older too, maybe they can go to the secondary. This might be a best player on the board pick here, to be quite honest with you. I think I might take Jermod McCoy here at 39. Only reason being is I don't really think it's a need for the Browns, but it is making a strength certainly stronger. Like I said, we don't really know what his athletic testing will be. But if he's here at number 39 and you could just continue to keep a strength stronger with the secondary, and I'm banking on the fact that he comes back just as athletic as he was before the injury, you have a potential top 10 player in the class and you can get him at number 39. I feel like it's a little bit of a Will Johnson situation from last year as well. I think I'm going to take Jermod McCoy here. I think it's just kind of like a roll of the dice at this point, but honestly, I don't really see any other way that the Browns could go in this pick. You could take Peter Woods probably here too, but I think I'm going to bank on the upside of Jermod McCoy at number 39 instead.
Yeah, I would have done the same probably. You have 2 first-round picks, so this is like gravy, and if it hits and it works out you have a top 10 talent here
Absolutely.
in the second round. So I'm picking for Kansas City, who's already taken Ruben Bain and Caleb Banks off the board, right?
Yes, meat and potatoes, baby.
Yeah, baby. I hate to do this, but I'm going to stay on the defensive side of the board. And when you think of that defense, when you think of that defensive coordinator, that get in your face and get at it kind of mindset that they have, there's one person left that kind of epitomizes to me what that Kansas City defense wants to play with. Give me D'Angelo Ponce.
Oh,
yes. I will play him inside, outside, pressed up, and let them blitz all over the place. You now have fortified the interior defensive line, the edge rusher, and a defensive back weapon. And I don't care if Ponce is 5'9". He can play outside if you need him to. And he's not scheme specific. I don't care if he's short. Listen, the press skills that he has and the athleticism and the ball skills is just like, for a guy that small, is just like outstanding. He would be exactly a perfect fit over there in Kansas City. So give me D'Angelo Ponce here.
I mean, listen, all I'm going to say is you might have to turn the reins over to us over in Kansas
City.
Right?
Look at that defense.
We're building some dogs on that defense there, but I love that pick. I've said it. You've probably seen me tweet it a couple times too. I said if D'Angelo Ponce, if I covered him up, if I gave him like a black outline of him, right? Mm-hmm. And I said, this guy, I gave you all of his statistics and I just put 6'0" next to his name, you'd think he was the best corner in the entire draft class.
Absolutely.
People just look at his height and they go, guy can't play. That's absolutely not the case for D'Angelo Ponce. I love that pick. And 100%, Spagnuolo will definitely get as much out of D'Angelo Ponce as you can get. 41, we already drafted Mansour Delaney here. I'm going to get someone that, if all works out, could probably be, a top 15 player in this draft class too. I know that they signed Jonathan Allen. I'm going to continue to add to the defensive line. It's been a problematic area for them for a little bit. Peter Woods is still on the board. I'm banking on the upside, and he's a long-term play for me. So Peter Woods is going to be the addition to this Bengals defensive front here. And we're going to continue to get beefier, and we're going to get better on the defensive side because they basically had like the 33rd ranked defense in the NFL last year. So,
yeah. Was there anyone that's had a more strange off-season cycle than Peter Woods? I mean, it's been peculiar.
It really has, and he hasn't really done anything to help himself out. I feel like either.
No, he hasn't. All right, I'm up at 42. Who is the DC in New Orleans now? I always want to say Dennis Allen, but I know he's not because he was never even the defensive coordinator. He's the head coach. Who is the defensive coordinator? Let's see here.
I'm actually going to look here. Let's see. Was it Saints? DC is Brandon Staley.
Interesting. That might make things a little bit more easy for the selection for me. So Brandon Staley, cut from the same, Seattle 3 deep kind of legacy that Robert Saleh came from, so on and so forth. He's definitely a get home with 4 zone coverage kind of phenom. So that plays very well into what I want to do in the defensive backfield here. One of your favorite guys, I'm going to take Chris Johnson off the board here.
Yes.
And I don't care if you play, again, in that zone scheme, he might be the best zone defender from the corner in this draft class. I love him in the slot. I think he's probably a little bit undersized to play outside a lot, but again, if you're asking him to do just kind of be an athlete, click and close, read and react kind of stuff, Chris Johnson's your guy. Now he gets to line up with Kool-Aid McKinstry and Quincy Riley over there. I love it.
I love it. Anywhere that he goes, I think he's truly going to be a dog. And I was a little worried about the athleticism numbers going into the combine, and then he runs a 4.4 flat. I was like, this guy is everything that I think he could be. It's like, this is fantastic. But I got the Miami Dolphins here at number 43. Took Caleb Downs at number 11. don't really know. I'm thinking about adding a guard potentially. Let's see who is on the board here. Jalen Farmer. I think it might be just a touch too early for Farmer.
Yeah.
I'm not
Hey,
really.
can I suggest something and just not suggest it, but just throw something out
Go for it.
into the atmosphere?
Go for it.
What do you think of Lomu as an interior guy?
You know, I like it. The athleticism really makes me think that he can
Correct.
bounce to the inside. And honestly, you know what, dude? This Miami Dolphins offensive line, especially with the long-term future of Austin Jackson, kind of up in the air for the most part, I think maybe that could be a move here. I'm someone that kind of is always stuck in my ways of like, oh, if someone plays on the left, they should play on the left. They shouldn't really switch over. You know what I mean? I'm always like, it is harder to go from college to the NFL to switch on the other side of the offensive line. I don't think a lot of people understand that. And I always say that the development of offensive linemen usually is the slowest in some cases. I feel like it's not as quick to pick up the game going from college to the NFL. But honestly, Lomu with his athleticism, and I believe if I'm remembering correctly, early in his career, he did play a little bit of right tackle for them as well. So it's not the craziest transition either. So maybe you do get the most talented offensive lineman on the board. You know what, Dom? I'm going to take your suggestion there. It's a Caleb Lomu at 43.
Yeah, listen, I just think he's probably one of those guys that you're going to find out. We're going to find out 5 years from now. Can just play all 5 spots in the offensive line.
Yep.
The anchor's not the greatest. Let's call it what it is. But I think he'll gain. I think he makes up for the lack of bottom half and hip strength with his mobility skills and stuff like that. So, listen, I'm not trying to make your pick for you, but I know you were looking at the interior guys, and I think he's a guy that's there's a couple of them. I think Fano can probably play all 5. I think Mayanoa can probably play all 5. Yep. Lomu might be just another one of those guys.
You are building quite the draft for the Jets so far, so I'm very curious to see what you do at 44 here.
And listen, this is again this is predictive, right? If we're doing predictive, it's going to be completely different than what I would do. Because I'll tell you this much: I would draft another edge rusher. I would draft another edge rusher here. I would draft a guy that can put his hand in the dirt in sub packages and get at the quarterback. And then can still offer you maybe a little bit of inside-outside versatility. Like I would absolutely think about a guy like Zion Young if I was picking. I would think about a guy like Gabe Yakis if I was picking. This is predictive. I'm going to take Ty Simpson off the board. I'm going to take Ty Simpson off the board. I just don't think that the Jets are going to go this far if Simpson's still on the board and let him drop any further. Hindsight being what it is, I probably should have taken him at 37 with Arizona, but I didn't. Again, predictive, I really think that the Jets are going to, whether or not they obtain him, I think he's going to be on their radar. I think that Woody is going to copycat what the Giants did last year and have 2 veteran guys in there and the young guy to kind of just learn and soak stuff up for half the season before you hand him over the reins.
Yeah. No, I like that. And you know what? I'm softening up a little bit on the idea of bringing Ty Simpson in. I did say it on my Jets mock that actually dropped today. I did say I did take Ty Simpson in this exact spot. I actually think our 4 picks were the exact 4 picks that I made for the first 4 picks. Yeah, I think it was. And I did say that, listen, we are living in in an NFL where I'm not willing to wait for the next draft class because in 2025, a lot of people told me, hey, just wait for 2026. And now look at the 2026 quarterback class. It's not only that, it's, hey, I'm not going to be the number 1 overall pick. I'm going back to college to make $7 million, and then I'll come out next year. There's a lot of factors in today's college football and NFL that determine what the classes are going to look like. And if there's a quarterback that could potentially be as talented as Ty Simpson sitting here at number 44, I think you kind of have to take the chance on it there.
Yeah, and I don't think it at 44 does not preclude you from dipping your toes in if you want to next year.
Oh, absolutely not. I agree with that sentiment 100%.
Yeah.
45, you have the Ravens. A lot of different ways I feel like you can go. Is it where a center finally comes off the board here? It could possibly be. Let's take a look. We have all of our centers on the board. Sam Hetch is a really, really good player. Connor Liu as well, Jake Slaughter. I don't know if you feel this. Jake Slaughter feels like a Raven to me. I don't know if it's because his name is Slaughter, but
Yeah,
it feels like a Raven to me.
if you're gonna replace Linderbaum, you better find a guy that can come in, is going to be no nonsense, and kind of plug and play for the next 8 to 10 years. You know,
Yeah.
so and I think there's a couple guys in this class that fit that bill for sure.
Yeah, I just don't know at this point at 45 if I'm really willing to go
Yeah,
that way. I think it's tough. I would have honestly, again, if we were doing what we would do, if Zion Young is on the board, we just to cash this out. I'm taking another edge rusher. Screw it. But I really like the proposition of Brandon Cisse in Baltimore. I think that they need to get meaner and nastier in the secondary. I feel like they're consistently getting burnt, even though they have quite a bit of talent. I think Jesse Minter coming into town, he's going to bring his own type of nasty, mean style. And I think that in LA, they ran quite a few corners in rotation. I think there were 4 or 5 corners in rotation, and I just don't think that the Baltimore Ravens have that type of depth right now. I know that they still have Marlon Humphrey. Of course, you have Nate Wiggins as well. They have TJ Tampa, but I'm going to continue to get stronger in the secondary here. I know it's not a guard or a center that some people are probably going to want at this point. It's not a wide receiver, but Cisse is incredibly talented and incredibly athletic, and I think he kind of fits the bill of what a Raven corner should look like under Jesse Minter's leadership here.
Yeah, he's so good. He can play, and like I said, he is nasty.
Yeah,
he's got an edge to him. I think Jesse Minter's gonna really love that. He had some moments last year, at least in his film, where lost more reps than you like to see him, but the talent and the upside is there. I'm up with Tampa. And what did we do last time for Tampa?
We took CJ Allen.
Yes. Tampa's interesting too, because I think you took CJ Allen. You would assume that he automatically replaces Servassier Dennis and plays next to Alex Anzalone. I would assume that he would win that job. You still need some more pass rush. You signed Muhammad from Detroit. I know you have Yaya. Yeah, this might be an R. Mason Thomas spot. I think that you can use the DB as well. Maybe not. I forgot they had Benjamin Morrison, right? Yeah. They have Benjamin Morrison. All right, so I'm going to flip the script here. I'm going to bring back not Mike Evans, but I'm going to bring back a prototype X receiver. Give me Chris Brazzell. Give me Chris Brazzell to kind of take over as that boundary type guy. You have McMillan, you have Ibuka, you have oh my God, you have why can't I think of his name? Godwin. You have Godwin for one more year. You're going to need to spend some capital at some point into that wide receiver room. Emeka is wonderful. Had a bad second half. Jalen McMillan, bad neck injury, barely played last year. So you need some bodies in there. Like, I don't know how much I'm really on board with Tez Johnson seeing a whole heck of a lot of reps. So give me Brazzell. He's a bigger body, can kind of fit the bill of some of that, go route, jump up 50-50 kind of catch and go kind of stuff. So.
Oh, I like that pick a lot. I think that people are very hot and cold on Brazzell because the people before him don't really give him a great name. You think of Dante Thornton last year was a later selection, but people were very high on him. Didn't really materialize. Then before that, you had Jalen Hyatt, of course, lighting the world on fire, and hasn't materialized either. So I think a lot of people in that wide split Tennessee offense, I think a wide receiver is kind of really tough to evaluate, but Brazzell's probably the most sparkling receiver from Tennessee that we've seen so far in that wide split type of offense. I love that. I think he really kind of opens it up for Baker. Baker loves to throw the ball down the field too. Not afraid to show off that arm strength. I think that's great. This has to be a linebacker at 47. If you've taken a look at the depth chart of the Indianapolis Colts linebackers, it's bad. It's really, really bad, to put it in like I can't even put it into perspective even better than that. Now, you might think that Jacob Rodriguez would be the pick here. I'm going with Josiah Trotter in this pick here.
Yeah, I have him rated higher than Jacob Rodriguez. Anyway,
yeah, I think this pick makes a lot of sense. I think that not only are you filling a massive need, but we all know that Chris Ballard loves relative athletic scores. We know that he loves athletic players, and Josiah Trotter fills a massive need. He's incredibly athletic, and he's only ascending as a talent as well. I think by the end of the draft cycle, you could probably see him maybe inside the top 40, or maybe even inside the back end of the first round. But he's an ascending talent, and I think this is a huge addition for the Indianapolis Colts, especially with the offseason that they've had so far.
Yeah. Love that pick. I absolutely listen, I as a Jet fan, Pete, like it's hard for me to point fingers, but has any team had a worse offseason than the Indianapolis Colts?
It's been so bad. Let me just for the fans' perspective and our perspective, let's just take a look at the depth chart right now for the Colts and look at their linebackers before anything, just so I could kind of put faces, and names to what I just said. So you're looking at, oh my God, this is.
I got it up. Let's see.
It's bad.
Jalen Carls, Austin. I don't even know who that is. Ajake, Joseph Vaughn, and John Bullock. That's your depth. That's your linebacker depth.
And to be quite honest with you, for anyone who watches this, and Dom knows this, I take pride on not only knowing as many draft prospects as I can, but knowing the ins and outs of every roster. I have never heard of 3 of those 4 guys before. Never. I don't even think they've seen a snap of 3 of those 4 guys. And yeah, it's bad. And you're 100% right. I think that Ballard is I don't know how he still has a job at this point, but if anything, he is working his way out of having a job by the end of this year.
It's crazy. It's nuts. I'm up here with the Falcons. Geez Louise. I guess at some point you're going to have to consider a James Pierce replacement, right? You can't imagine that he's going to play a full season, if at all.
Yeah.
I think you can also upgrade the wide receiver room here. They put some 1-year deals in there for Zacchaeus and Jahan Dotson, but that they're not long-term prospects. I'm not necessarily thinking. I think at this point the depth of the wide receiver class isn't going to be too affected if you wait until rounds 3 or 4 for that kind of guy. So I'm going to go ahead here. I think, I'm going to actually. This is where I'm going to have maybe it's a little reachy. I don't know. But I love the player. I'm going to replace James Pierce with Malachi Lawrence.
Oh, yes. That is not, by the way, shouldn't be reachy.
No, I don't think he's a top. Like I said, he's well within my top 50. I think the middle to end of round 2 is probably where he's going to go. He's long. I think he still has some work to do in his counter work and stuff like that. Like once his original rush kind of gets stalled, he stutters a little bit. So I'd like to see him clean some of that up. But man, the prospect of that, height, weight, speed prototype is really, really nice to have over there.
Yeah, he is. And credit to Alex from Hail Mary Sports. He was on it very early on in the draft cycle, even before the college football season started, saying that Malachi Lawrence was a top 50 player for him. So credit to where credit is due there. For the Vikings here, if you look at their depth chart, very barren on the defensive line. Very barren. And there's a lot of different ways that they can go here. I also think a pass rushing linebacker, off-ball linebacker, that can rush the passer is probably something that I'm looking at too. I like Jacob Rodriguez here. I just don't think that he's a Brian Flores type of guy. I like Jake Golday as well, but it's funny for a player that used to be a defensive end, actually rushing the quarterback is the worst attribute that he has, which is really funny. But so I think Golday's kind of off at this point. I love the prospect of Anthony Hill Jr. I'm going to have to go back to the defensive line. This might be, we talk about reachy. This might be a little reachy. I'm going to take Grayson Halton here at number 49. I think that he right away, probably if you look at the depth of the Minnesota Vikings defensive line, probably right away is your best defensive lineman.
Yeah,
And
he's so twitched up too. Like, I mean, he's shot like he's shot out of a cannon, man. At 285 pounds, dude.
yeah, and I think he fits that odd front very, very well. I think he's the type of, hard nosed, gritty, like you said, explosive defensive lineman that I think in his tenure, Brian Flores has missed in the Minnesota Vikings defensive line. And they really just, to be quite honest with you, to be quite frank, they need bodies and they need production on that defensive line. And I think Grayson Halton's probably your easiest route to getting both of those players in one.
Yeah, no, that's a great call, great pair up too between the player and the team. I love that. I'm on the clock here at 50 for Detroit. This one's going to be pretty easy for me. Again, this is what I think they would do. This is not what I would do. There's some other guys at the position that I'm going to select now that I have graded higher. This just feels like a Jacob Rodriguez spot. You can he can be your, he can back up Jack Campbell at the mic. He can play the will ahead of Malcolm Rodriguez. You need somebody that can, do some, understand zone coverage, how to pass those receivers off across the middle, make a play on the ball. I think I know his testing came back really, really good at the combine. And he looked much more athletic than he did on film.
Mm-hmm.
I question some of that stuff still on film. I question some of the tackling, but you talk about a jack of all trades in the linebacker room. Like, they're probably, Jacob Rodriguez is a really, really good fit. He just reminds me of a guy that Dan Campbell's going to love. Just lunch pail, make plays, kind of fly under the radar. Do what's best for the team. Like, one of the interviews that I had when I was down in Mobile, one of my favorite ones was with Jacob Rodriguez, and that's exactly what he says. He's like, I don't, he's like, because I asked him, do you have a scheme preference? Yeah, do you like to play, where you like? He's like, I just like to play football. And I was like, wow, what a fucking great answer.
Gotta love that.
Yeah. So again, I like Golday better. Golday's a true Mike. I think, I think I have Anthony Hill Jr. from Texas rated higher. I think he's a true Will. I think Jacob Rodriguez can give you both, which is why I'm taking him here.
Yeah, I love it. And it's just, he's one of those guys that I think, like you said, every point that you mentioned is valid. Tested much more athletic than he showed up on film. He's just one of those guys that I feel like we're going to look back in a couple of years and be like, how did we overanalyze this?
Yeah.
He feels like a guy that's just going to wind up performing and producing for whatever team drafts him. And him next to Jack Campbell just seems, unfair, honestly. 51, you have the Carolina Panthers. Now, I did have Kenyon Sadiq as my first pick here for the Panthers. I'm going to go to the defensive side. I'm thinking that a safety is in play here for the Carolina Panthers. They did obviously spend money to upgrade the defense. The secondary, especially at the back end, definitely could use an upgrade here. Thinking AJ Halsey is probably the pick that I'm going to make here. And that's going to be the pick that I'm going to make here. I think that this is a player that it just could really, really upgrade not only just the overall, how do I put this? The overall physicality of the secondary for the Carolina Panthers, but he brings good ball skills as well. The tackling ability is something that always kind of hampers him in my evaluations for me. I think he had something like a 16 or 17% missed tackle rate last year. It was quite high, but 5'11", 220 pounds, bearing down on you, being able to make plays in the air as well. I think that that's a really nice compliment to Trayvon Merrick as well. I think this would definitely help the Panthers in their secondary here.
Yeah, no, it's a great fit, great player. Like you said, the physicality plus the ball skills. I mean, no brainer. Really good draft in 2 rounds here for Carolina. Yeah. I'm up for Green Bay. This to me is easy. This is a no brainer. I'm gonna take it fits their bill and checks their boxes for the physical measures. Give me Gabe Yakus. He probably battles and takes a job from Lucas Van Ness. Where Rashawn Gary used to be fit in. He is the prototypical Green Bay Packer in my eyes.
Yeah, no, I think you're 100% right in that, and he's another one of those guys. We've said it so many times, but lunch pail gives you your just 110% on every single snap, does all the dirty work that you're looking for a 265 to 275 pound lineman. He's really, really good, been good. And Brett Bielema has really developed some great defensive talent at Illinois over the past 3 to 4 years or so.
I agree.
So, yeah, you know that he's been coached up, and you know that he's disciplined as well. For the Steelers here at 53, we took Casey Concepcion here in the first round to kind of round out our receivers here. I'm looking for some type of just checking up on the tackles. Not super in love with anything that I see here. I don't think Jennings Dunker's a really, really strong fit here. I'm thinking maybe the defensive line as well. Could go best player available, to be quite honest with you. And for me, that would probably be either Zion Young or Mason Thomas. But I don't really think it's a huge need at this point. I do think defensive line is something that we could look for here. God, I love Chris McClellan. This is way, way, way too high for him, but I think he's a great player. Dominic Orange, I doubt that they're going to need a Cam Hayward replacement at some point. I'm really not in love with anyone here. Let's take a look at the safeties just to cover all of our bases here. Ramsey, I'm not super in love with a lot of these guys here, man. I'll be quite honest with you. I could look to add another corner. That could be something. I do like Keith Abney a lot, actually. That could be that. So Jamel Dean on one side, Joey Porter on the other. Who's their slot corner?
Who is their slot corner?
Is it Corey Trice or no?
Brandon Eccles? Is he still there? Is he still on the team?
I think it is Brandon Eccles. I think you're right.
Really?
Yeah. I think you're actually right about that.
I know they got Dean. I know they got Dean and Porter on the outside. Ramsey's now playing more free safety.
Yeah, they have Jalen Ramsey too. Gosh, forgot about that. You know what? I think this might be a Keith Abney spot for me. I know that corner, even though signing Jamel Dean to a 3-year contract, I don't think that's going to stop me from getting better and younger in the secondary as well. Like you said, that Ramsey's obviously his better days are past him. He's moving back towards safety now at this point. Abney is a player that I really like, a 44.8 completion percentage against this past year in man coverage. The guy is really sticky. He has a decent enough frame, good enough athleticism. And I think that he kind of falls into a good enough situation where he could kind of, he doesn't have to be that CB1 or CB2 right away. He can kind of get acclimated to the NFL game. And he just add another really, really strong corner to the secondary of the Steelers. So it might not be the most popular pick, but again, I think Abney is a player that it kind of fell out of first-round consideration, but is still a top 50 player for me. I think he's a strong addition to the aging, quote-unquote, secondary of the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, that leaves me up with Philly, and you took Blake Miller last time. They signed Arnold Ebiketie from Atlanta. They have Nolan Smith. They have Jalix Hunt. Could you add another pass rusher? Yeah, you might be able to add another pass rusher. I'm concerned about their linebacker group, to be honest with you, because Zach Baun is, in the second year now of a 3-year deal, who is already old. Jahad Campbell, they're saying, is not going to be ready until June with another shoulder injury.
Jeez.
They signed Reek Wallen. I'm not a huge Reek Wallen fan, but now it gives them the opportunity to put Cooper back in the slot, which I like. So I think that's pretty good there. Yeah, to me, it's edge rusher or it's wide receiver. Maybe tight end. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try to kill 2 birds with 1 stone here. And I'm going to take big slot extraordinaire Eli Stowers from Vanderbilt. He's not going to give you much in line. You know that. But, he the way he breaks off at the top of his stem, he runs routes excellent. So that's who I'm going to take.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And for some reason, whenever you take a tight end within the first 3 rounds, Philadelphia Eagles fans don't like it. And I just don't get why. I know they re-signed Grant Calcaterra, and they might even wind up re-signing Dallas Goedert at this point. But, at the same time, I mean, I don't understand why you wouldn't want to add a tight end. You basically only use two wide receivers in your offense and a tight end. So why wouldn't you want someone that could be, like you said, killing two birds with one stone? At 55 for the Chargers here, I'm going to take R. Mason Thomas. I think that you have Tuli Tuipulotu on one side. Essentially, you have Khalil Mack back for another year. But outside of that, the pass rush is kind of sort of missing behind those two guys. And Khalil Mack is someone that I'm convinced you can keep giving 1-year deals to until he's 42 years old, and he'll probably still get 10 sacks a season. He's just one of those guys. Future Hall of Famer, no doubt. But I think R. Mason Thomas brings an energy and an athleticism to this Chargers team that they currently don't possess from the edge rushing position. And I think it's a really, really nice addition to this defense. Kind of a nice compare and contrast from the other two guys. And Tui Pelotu is an absolute, beast. And he was a really nice find, and I think at the end of the second round a couple of years ago. But getting someone like R. Mason Thomas here, that's a nice contrast. I think will definitely benefit in the long run for the Chargers.
Yeah, absolutely. And R. Mason Thomas is good. He's just good at football. So
yeah, he is.
Jacksonville's up. I would look in the running back room, but I don't think there's really. I mean, like I said, I think the talent at this point, you can go round 3, 4, and 5, and kind of be along that same tier.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm probably going to look on the defensive side of the ball. Do I want to kind of get ready to replace Foye Oluokun in the middle of the, with a linebacker?
Mm-hmm.
Or do I want to get ready to replace Eric Armstead, with that kind of big defensive tackle? So that's the question. I'm going to take the linebacker. Yeah, I think I'm going to take the linebacker. They have the kid. What is his name? Kaiser, Jack Kaiser from Notre Dame, but he's okay. Probably just a depth piece at this point. Ventrell Miller, I think they spent a draft capital on too, but he hasn't really panned out. So I want a guy that can play both, a little bit of both Mike and Will. Give me Anthony Hill Jr. He's probably more Will than he is anything. And maybe you can get a true Mike to replace Foye Oluokun, later on in the draft if you want to, or in free agency next year. Anthony Hill's a pick. You're up with the Bears.
Yeah, I think here with the uncertainty at the linebacker position going forward, I know last year, fun fact, actually, they re-signed DeMarco Jackson to a 2-year contract. He was my first ever player interview in the 2022 draft cycle.
Oh, really?
Great guy. Yeah, DeMarco Jackson was a hell of a guy. I'm really happy for him that he signed a 2-year extension. He actually played really well down the stretch for the Bears, got a lot of playing time for them. He's also someone that I don't think is going to be a full-time starter at the NFL level. TJ Edwards, after the injury, is obviously up in the air. And then you have Ruben Hippolyte II. A lot of uncertainty at the linebacker position. I think that you have to go and you have to get another linebacker here. I think Jake Golday makes a lot of sense for the Bears at this spot here. Obviously, you lost Tremaine Edmonds. TJ Edwards is probably on his way out at this point. I think you need to get younger. You need to get better at the position. Incredibly athletic, huge linebacker as well. I think it's just an ever-presence in the middle of your defense here.
Yeah, I love Golday. Like I said, I thought about him for the last pick also. But I just couldn't pull the trigger. I'm up with the Niners, and I'm gonna go with it here. This is where I'm gonna have Chris Bell come off the board. I know that knee injury is real. They said hopefully he'll be back at some point, during training camp. Coming off of a year, first year off of a ACL might be a little tough. So this might be, in truth, a little bit of a reach. Or an overdraft, but I think the talent is there. They need so much help in the wide receiver room, so it's worth a shot here. Chris Bell's going to come off the board.
Yeah, I love that. I was going to say he has to really. Maybe the only other place he would probably go off at this point would probably be 63 to the Patriots. But yeah, I think Bell, even off of the ACL injury, is one of the better receivers in this draft class. 59, you have the Houston Texans here, and we've done a job here.
Indian Terrell, Chase Besantis.
We've done a job, and I think what I'm going to do here is I was thinking about adding Sam Hecht, but I think I might leave that alone for now. I think, maybe they could move someone else over to the center position
Mhm.
to replace Jake Andrews. I'm thinking about adding a third edge rusher because let's face it, Daniil Hunter, even though he keeps extending and he's still great, he isn't getting any younger. And they did lose a couple of rotational defensive ends behind Will Anderson Jr. and Daniil Hunter. So I'm thinking maybe if you're able to add someone like a Zion Young and just continue, I mean, like that's just relentless pressure at this point.
Yeah.
You're just
Yeah.
continuing to add and add. I would like to add a center, but I think just the proposition of never taking a defensive end off the field that can continuously rush the passer, I think is too much for a lot of teams to deal with. So I think I'm going to add Zion Young as an inevitable Daniil Hunter replacement in the long term.
Yeah, I love that. He's too good to be on the board at this point. To be honest, if we're being honest, I'm up with the Bears here. The Bears quietly need some offensive line help, right?
Yep.
I know they signed Jedrick Wills, and they hope he can give them something. They traded for Garrett Bradbury, who's just a stopgap. Joe Tooney is not getting any younger. So, and Ozzie Trapillo, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, I think he got hurt towards the end of the year. So I don't even know what his injury status is. So they quietly need some offensive line. There's not a lot of tackles that I'm crazy with at this point. Like, Jennings Dunker, I think has the length to play tackle, but I think he's kind of set to be inside. Markel Bell is definitely a tackle, but probably probably a right side guy. I think Caleb Tiernan is an interior guy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stay with the interior, and this is where I'm going to have Logan Jones come off the board. He's going to be the first center taken. I just love the movement skills. I think he'll fit real good Ben Johnson's offense. I think he's more NFL ready in terms of physical stature and his skill set matching what the coach wants, even more so than Slaughter and Connor Lew. Connor Lew with the injury, I don't know. So Logan Jones is going to be my guy. I'm confident that he's a plug-and-play starter in this league.
Wow, I love that. And a lot of people, people are going to watch this video and they're going to be like, oh my God, you guys overdrafted so many players because of what PFF have. I just want to be clear, and I say this every video, that PFF visually looks the best, in my opinion, for videos. The player rankings are all over the place.
Yeah.
And obviously everyone's entitled to their own opinion, on things. But I think a lot of these players are incredibly misinterpreted in terms of their PFF board ranking. I think Logan Jones is one of those guys. I think he's fantastic as well. And what I usually say, maybe Dom doesn't like this, I don't know, but I usually say if they're white and they played offensive line at Iowa, draft them.
Draft them. Amen.
Draft them. That's it. But at 61, you have the Rams here. Mekhi Lemon was our pick at number 13. Very quietly, I think a linebacker upgrade is probably needed in LA. I do think that they found something really nice with Nate Landsman as well. But I think you just got to continue to add bodies to this defense as well, because for as good as they were during stretches last year, that's how bad they were in some other games too. So you need to continue to add bodies that are going to make a difference on this defense here. And I think Kyle Lewis is the player that I'm going to take here at this point. I think Kyle Lewis, especially in terms of being a coverage linebacker and more of what a today NFL linebacker is looking like, despite the size, I think that he's a dog that absolutely can play in the middle of the field at the NFL level. And I love the coverage ability that he'll bring to the middle of the defense for the Rams.
He is a Rams type of guy. He's a Rams type of guy, wholeheartedly. I agree with that, man. I love that pick. And he could do different things in sub packages. You want to play him, play him on the post or in the slot, do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm up with the Broncos. I'm between two spots here, but for me, I think they need or could use an upgrade at the slot. So this is where I'm going to have Tre'Davious Stoops from Arizona come off the board. He gives you that true modern day, safety slot corner skill set that I think will pair really nice in that Denver defensive backfield. Where you got Riley Moss, you got Pat Surtain, obviously. The safeties, the starting safeties are pretty good, but a lot of teams are playing the big nickel these days.
Yeah.
And Tre'Davious Stoops I think he can come in and be a starting slot or a nickel right off the bat. He's a guy that doesn't get talked about nearly as much as he really, really should. He's an excellent player, provides it provides really good length, really good size, 6'2". I think close to 210 pounds. So I love the player, can really move. So you're up with the Pats.
I'm going to do something crazy here with the Pats here.
Okay.
It's my last pick. I got to leave a lasting impression. Maybe you don't think it's crazy because you're in the know and you're in my opinion, you're a guru, Dom. Guru. You're a draft guru. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take Michael Trigg at number 63.
Okay. I like it. I love that.
I'm going to take Trigg not only because I think that he is one of the more freakier tight ends in this draft class. I think it's the long-term replacement to Hunter Henry. And he also offers you that big slot ability as well. So where you can play Hunter Henry and Michael Trigg on the field at the same time. I think he's a great vertical threat up the seam. And he's something that I think that the Patriots are kind of missing that Hunter Henry or Austin Hooper weren't able to give Drake May this past year.
I love that. He has, of all the tight ends in this draft class, he led the nation in forced missed tackles. He had 17. So you're right. He is a perfect complement to what Hunter Henry is. Hunter Henry's your safety blanket in and around the line of scrimmage, and Trigg's your move guy. You can get him out in motion in the flats. You can send him up the seam. I have no problem with that. I think that's a great pick, as a matter of fact. And I'll finish it up here, Pete. What did we take last time? We took Colton Hood.
Yes, we did.
Yeah. This is okay. It's going to be kind of easy, I think. I'm going to take Jadarian Price. I'm going to go ahead and bring Zach Charbonnet some thunder and lightning skill set that they lost with what's his face? Who left there? The running back that left. My God,
Kenneth Walker.
Yeah. So you bring another guy who's got it's got some home run capabilities anytime he touches the ball. Obviously, played sidekick to one Jeremiah Love, but this is the range where I could see him coming off the board. So,
yeah, absolutely, I agree with you there. I think, really, to be honest with you, I don't think that the Seahawks can go wrong. If this was the board, I don't think you can go wrong either way because you could add Jadarian Price, who's a home run level threat. The NFL is going to that more two-back system. Getting Stunker, someone that could probably give you more tackle depth and even start on the interior. Joshua Josephs is a player that I think would be lightning in a bottle for Mike McDonald, and who's someone that I think is kind of sort of slept on in this draft class too, as really more of just a premium, kind of like a Cassius Howell, like a premium, just speed rush type of guy. But man, I mean, I think we crushed it, but I'm obviously biased. But I think we did a great job here. The full results are obviously in for you guys. And Dom, before we wrap up here, I just want you to be able to plug yourself because I know that people are going to want to see more of you after this video. So please let us know where we could find your written material, where we could find your videos, where we could find all your write-ups and your tweets and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so I'm pretty active on Twitter, at DC_ NFL Draft. Probably the best place to kind of connect with me. All my written draft content can be seen on Jets X Factor, www.jetsxfactor.com. Just search the page for Dom C stuff, and it's all draft related. I'm currently in the process of getting my top 50 fits for the Jets, and I think I'm somewhere in the 40s right now. I'm trying to line it up with how many days we have left in the draft. You can always check me out. Some videos coming out on Project Prospect, which is my podcast here on YouTube. At Project Prospect. That's it, man.
Awesome, man. Listen, the next time that we'll be doing this, it'll be a 3-rounder. So,
oh baby, I can't wait.
And then, you know what? I was just thinking while we're sitting here, I'm trying to get a massive group of guys together to do. I mean, it might be crazy. A 7 rounder between a bunch of guys. That's probably obviously like right before the draft. But yeah, man, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day and your busy schedule to record this with me. I'm so glad that we were able to do this, and thank you again, man.
Now, my pleasure. Anytime, dude. It's always, I always appreciate getting to work with, really talented, like-minded folk like yourself. So this is a lot of fun, dude.
I appreciate that, man. Thank you, everyone, for watching today. Like I said, I will link all of Dom's stuff in the pinned comment section below. Thank you guys for watching today. Hope you enjoyed, and hope I see you in the next one.